Hello! Welcome to my April wrap-up. This is an exciting video to film because I read a lot this month and I didn't expect to read that much this month. I actually just came back from my Italy trip. I was there for 2 weeks and I literally just came back, as in I came back this morning. I am filming this at 8 p.m. and I'm filming this because I am jet lagged. I'm very exhausted. I am about to pass out, but it's only 8 p.m. So I am trying my best to keep myself awake, and the only thing I can think of is to film this. So that's what I'm gonna do. I am so tired, but I figured that if I filmed and if I talked, I wouldn't be so tired and I'll be able to hold out as much as possible and I'll not be jet lagged. So that's what I'm gonna do. Hopefully I'll be able to get through this without being or sounding crazy, because I feel unhinged right now. Like, my brain is probably not working. Actually, April was a good month. I thought that I wouldn't have a good month because I left to Italy in the 3rd week, and so I technically only had 2 weeks to read, but I ended up reading a lot on the plane, on my train rides, because my plane to Italy was 20 hours and I had a lot of like 2-hour train rides in between cities. So I read a lot on my Kindle. So a lot of the books I read were on my Kindle. In total, I did read 12 books and I had 1 DNF. 5 were physical books and 7 were Kindle books. For the physical books, I have a reading vlog for all of them. I had 2 vlogs before this video, and those vlogs were the physical books that I read in April. So I'm not going to talk too much about the physical books because I have 2 videos dedicated to them. First one I read is Addicted to You by Kristen Becker-Ritchie. This is the first book in the Addicted series. It talks about Lily and Lo. Lily and Lo are both addicts. Lily is a sex addict and Lo is an alcoholic. Basically, this book is a journey about them kind of figuring out how to live their lives and how they hide each other's addictions from their families. I gave it 4 stars, and the only reason why I gave it 4 instead of 5 is because the middle part of this book was a little bit redundant. I felt like some of the parts, especially about their addiction, were just a little bit boring in the middle, but the ending really like kicked up a notch for me. The last 100 pages were so beautifully written. I cried tears reading them, and I loved the sibling relationship between Lily and Rose, and I also really liked the friendship between the guys, Lo, Connor, and Reich, and it was just so pretty and beautiful. It ended really well. This is great. 4 stars for me. My books are pretty high. So the next book I read is Heart of My Monster by Irina Kent. I did rate this 2 stars. It is the 3rd book in the Monster trilogy. Although I did like the first book, it gradually became even more boring and even more frustrating to read because the female character went from being super strong-minded and strong-willed to becoming this weak and suddenly not being able to do anything type of girl who only relied on the male character. I thought I was going to enjoy the 3rd book a lot, but it was a letdown, so I didn't really enjoy it and I gave it 2 stars. The next book I read is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. This is the first book in a duology. This is a story about the Chinese folklore of the moon goddess called Chang'e, but this is mostly about the daughter of the moon goddess. The daughter doesn't exist in the real mythology folklore, but in this one it's about the daughter. Her name is Xing Yin, and she lives kind of secluded in the heaven realm because her mom is in exile. But one day something happens, Xing Yin's existence is discovered, and she ends up having to flee her mom and the world that she has always lived in, and then she goes on this journey to try and save her mother from exile. I really enjoyed this book for many reasons. First, that it was a very beautiful take on the real Chinese mythology of the moon goddess. I also really liked the genre because it actually is a subgenre called xianxia, and I loved watching that genre on Chinese dramas. The plot twist, I didn't see the plot twist coming. I really wasn't expecting that. The romance subplot was pretty interesting. Overall, it was a great fantasy book. It was whimsical. It really made me feel nostalgic about the mythology. The only reason why I'm not giving it 5 stars is because it didn't really capture my attention. It didn't make me want to continue reading as soon as possible. This book I gave 4 stars. I then read popular book talk books. Among the 3 popular book talk books I read, I did DNF 1. So the first one I read is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. Once again, I have a whole vlog dedicated to this, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. This book is about Ava, Mercy, and Shane Hall. They had history when they were in high school, and 15 years later, they met again as writers. This book is basically a second chance romance. It has a lot of trigger warnings. I really do recommend you guys to check trigger warnings if you want to read this book. This book was really beautifully written. It was comedic. It was also just so sad and so heartwarming to read about. There were a lot of small things mentioned in this book, and it kind of played a huge role at the end of the book. The only reason why this is not 5 stars and it's 4.5 stars is because the epilogue, I didn't like the epilogue. I thought it was unnecessary. I would have enjoyed it if it ended in the last chapter. I also didn't like how there were a lot of pop culture references that I would understand because I'm not a young teen anymore, so I didn't really get it, and it really cut the flow of the book sometimes. But overall, this is a great book. I do recommend it. 4.5 stars. The next book I read is Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. This is the second book in the Knock 'em Out series. The first one is Things We Never Get Over, and it's very popular. Very popular on TikTok. This book is also really thick. It's like 560 something pages, and I flew through this book. This was 4 stars for me. Knox was the main character in Things We Never Got Over, and this talks about his brother Nash and Lena. And Nash and Lena, they kind of clashed when they first met. If you read the first book, you'll know what happened to Nash, but essentially he got shot and he has trauma from that, and this book kind of delves into his trauma. It also delves into his relationship with Lena. Lena is a new character that appeared in the latter half of the first book. She kind of appeared quite randomly. Her character in this is a mystery, so I'm not gonna spoil that. There's also a mystery aspect in this because the first book kind of ended off the mystery portion in a slight cliffhanger, and it really centers around that mystery plot point. For a romance book, this is a really thick book, but I really enjoyed every part of it. Side characters were also really cute. I really enjoyed seeing Knox and Naomi appear in this book. I gave this 4 stars, even though I really enjoyed this book, because I felt like Nash and Lena's chemistry was not as interesting, I guess you would say, compared to Knox and Naomi. I more enjoyed Nash and Knox's relationship, Nash and Lucian's relationship, as compared to Nash and Lena. So that part kind of threw me off, but in general, I like this book. I know a lot of people have like qualms about this being too thick, but I honestly didn't really feel bored about this book. We Never Got Over. The last physical book I read is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I DNF'd this. I'm not gonna talk too much about it. Essentially, I didn't like the book. The writing was mediocre. I didn't know why so many people like this book because on Goodreads, it's like 4.3 stars or something. But yeah, I didn't enjoy this, and I don't even want to talk about it. So let us get into our Kindle reads. Essentially, because I had a lot of time on planes and on train rides, I read a lot of Kindle books. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't remember all of the books I read, but we're gonna look into our Kindle and we're gonna figure it out. The first book I read is The Summer We Fell by Elizabeth O'Rourke, and all of these are on Kindle Unlimited, by the way. I don't really remember this book too much. I know it's like best friend's brother. No wait, brother's best friend.
Popping in to say I didn't even get it correct.
It was boyfriend's best friend. There's like past and present timeline. They fall in love in the summer. Something happened. They ended up separating, and then they meet again in the future and they rekindle that relationship. So something like second chance romance too. Now that I'm talking about it, I kind of remember a few things about it, but because I don't really remember much about it, this is gonna be 2.5 stars. We're gonna continue on to the other books because it only gets better from this. So the next book I read is Right Man, Right Time by Megan Quinn. If I'm not wrong, this book is the 3rd in a trilogy, and it talks about hockey players, I think. Silas. I actually don't really know how to say his name, but I'm gonna say Silas, so I hope that doesn't sound weird. Kind of sounds weird in my ear, but I'm just gonna say it. So it's about Silas and Ollie. This is an age gap romance, and the difference is 10 or 12 years, I don't remember. But Ollie is a college student and Silas is a hockey player. Ollie applied for an internship in a certain company. She was supposed to go in as a fashion blog, but she ended up having to write about hockey, which she doesn't know anything about. She went to drown her sorrows in a bar and ended up meeting her nemesis, who was the one who signed her job in the internship and placed her purposely into the hockey blog portion. In a fit, because she wanted to make her ex jealous, she grabbed a random guy in the bar and she kissed him, and that guy happened to be Silas, the hockey player. She didn't recognize who he was, even though he was very big in Vancouver. This happens in Vancouver, by the way. They strike up a deal. They ended up fake dating. He needed her for some reasons and she needed him for other reasons. They ended up falling in love. It was a very cute book. I love the chemistry between the two main characters. I also really enjoyed Silas as a character on his own. He had a lot of demons to battle because he got his heart broken, and I liked watching his growth. I also loved Ollie. I liked that some part of this was her chasing him instead of the other way around. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I am giving this book 4 stars. The next book I read is My Dark Romeo by Parker S. Huntington and LJ Shin. I don't entirely remember the story of this book. I just remembered that I didn't really like the main characters separately as 2 separate people. I didn't like Romeo because he was very toxic. The both of them getting together, I couldn't understand. I couldn't wrap my head around how they end up falling for each other. It is, I would say, somehow like a dark romance, but it's not super dark. I just didn't like how they got together. It was pretty toxic to me. Even though you can read books about toxic relationships and like the book, this one was just not it for me. So My Dark Romeo was 2 stars. And then I read Scarred by Emily McIntyre. This is the second book in the Never After series. The first one is called Hooked. It is a series about the Disney villains. So the first one is about Captain Hook and the second one is about Scar. They're not like retellings, they're just like reimagining. Scarred talks about a prince called Tristan Fasa. He is called Scar because he has a scar running through his face. He basically wants to overrule his own brother. His brother is currently the king of the city he's in. And then comes in Sarah. Sarah comes from a neighboring country. She's a princess there. And she is sent by her uncle to actually overthrow the king as well because the king killed her father. From there on, Sarah meets Tristan. They kind of strike up a relationship. Maybe I'm just not a fan of dark romances because it was really difficult to read about a guy killing people and liking said guy. In general, the plot was great because the politics part, the whole concept of how to overthrow his own brother, that part was very interesting to read. Scarred is 3 stars. Yeah. The next few books I read are some of the best books I've read this month, to be honest. And I'm so mad I didn't read this early enough. I read Flawless by Elsie Silver. I did plan on reading this, but I wanted to read it on my paperback. I did buy the paperback because I think it got picked up by a publisher, and so now it's very easy to access this book, and I bought it, but it's taking a while to reach my country, and I ended up just reading it on my Kindle because it was on KU. The first book is about Rhett and Summer, and Rhett is a bull rider in this small town called Chestnut Springs, and Summer is the daughter of his agent. His face in the media is not so great, and his agent ends up asking his daughter Summer to quote-unquote babysit him for the remaining of his career as he strives for a gold medal in this bull riding competition. Brett really doesn't like being babysat because he is a grown man, but Summer really wants to take her job seriously because it is her dad's company. She then goes on to go on the tours with Rhett, and they end up sharing a room. All of those tropes. What I really liked about this book, first of all, is I really liked small town romances in general. I just like the community aspect of small town romances, how everyone is just very tight with each other. I really liked the relationship between Summer and her dad. I think that really played a huge role in how I loved this book so much. I also really liked the relationship between Rhett and his brothers and his dad, and you will see his brothers also get a book on their own. I also really enjoyed the romance between the two of them. Rhett and Summer's chemistry was off the charts. I was just dying for them to get together. And sometimes in romances, when you get the pining over with and they end up getting together, sometimes you just lose that spark and you end up getting bored with the couple. But for this one, I was just so invested with the couple. But I also think it's because they both have their own backstories, and that really played a role in their relationship, and that got me invested in them as characters as well. So I really enjoyed this book. This was great. I don't know, I didn't see anything bad with it. Rhett was a gentleman. I loved him so much. I am not a fan of guys with like longish hair and super big beards, but this one, his character, so cute. So I loved him so much as a character. Flawless, I gave 5 stars. It was super 5-star material. I loved it so much. And then I read the second book, which is Heartless by Elsie Silver. And Heartless is about Cade Eaton. He is the brother of Rhett. He's the first brother. So they are 3 brothers and 1 adoptive brother, and Cade is the oldest of them. This story centers around Cade as a single father. So he has a kid called Luke, and he ends up needing a nanny. So Summer introduces her best friend called Willa to help care for Luke. I really liked Flawless. I loved Rhett and Summer, but Cade really took the cake for me. It was so precious as a character. I just really liked the appearance of Willa. She was just very fierce and protective and loyal, and I loved their relationship together. This one was also super age gap. I think, if I'm not wrong, they're 12 years apart or 13, but it really didn't feel like it because I felt like Willa was very mature and Cade really needed someone like her to ground him. The only reason why I loved it so much more than Flawless is because Luke, he was so cute and he really played a huge role in their relationship. I really enjoyed Heartless, and I am just over the moon about these 2 books. Powerless is the 3rd book, and I did read it on my flight back, but it will be in my May wrap up, so you guys will have to wait for that. But those are the books that I read on my Kindle on my flight to Italy and on the train rides around the city of Italy. So that is it for this video. I am so tired of talking already. I'm not gonna lie, my head is hot and I am about delusional right now. I'm very sleepy, I'm very exhausted, and I'm gonna go to bed. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I am so sorry if I'm sounding unhinged or if I don't sound clear. I don't know how I breezed through this video because I don't remember what I said. I promise not all of my videos are like this. I'm usually more well kept. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you guys enjoyed. That's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!